What's up, Tweener heads? Welcome back to another Tweener head tennis video today here on the channel. And today we have the US Open draw preview and predictions for the men's and women's singles draws. And I'm very excited to do this for you. US Open starts tomorrow, the day I'm recording this, and I'm very excited to announce that I'm going to the US Open. So I'm very excited to see you guys. If you're there, let me know. Hit me up on Instagram, Twitter, any social media, even here to let me know if you're going to be there. I would love to meet you guys. But before we do anything, make sure you are subscribed to Tweener Head Tennis. We're almost at 2,000 subscribers. We are literally less than 50 away. I think less than 30 now as well. So make sure you hit that sub button with notifications turned on so that way you don't miss any new content that we're posting here on the channel. And let's get straight into the video. So we are going to start with the women's singles draw first. And of all things, Ash Barty is our #1 seed for this year's tournament, and I'm very excited to see her play Zverev Zvonareva. That's actually quite an interesting battle, just because Zvonareva is such a seasoned veteran, and she's been on the big stage before. Then you have Clara Tauson versus Clara Burel from France. That's a nice young matchup right there. I'm very excited to see that. Then you have Shelby Rogers versus Madison Brangle, Battle of the Americans. Cirstea versus Kudermetova. We interviewed Kudermetova at the VCore Open after she won it, so really cool to see her being a seed at this year's US Open. Then you have Muchova versus Sorribes Tormo. Sorribes Tormo coming off a great run at Cleveland that we covered this past week, but she's playing against one of the trickiest players, I think, on tour. Muchova, I think, is very underrated as a player. When we interviewed her, she beat Muguruza. She got to the 4th round of a Grand Slam, but now she's the 22nd seed at the US Open, and I think she could be a dark horse, honestly, in this part of the group to just go far in it. Then we have Claire Liu versus Sue Shea. Sue Shea, a favorite here on the channel. Have to show her some love. Have to make sure that you watch her. She's just such an unorthodox player that you have to watch her every time she plays. Then we have American wildcard Haley Baptiste, a very young and promising up-and-comer. Been talked about a lot on tour as one of the best young American talents that the country has to offer on the women's tour. And she's playing against Xu Zhang, which is... I don't know how that's going to go. I think Baptiste might get her first Grand Slam main draw win here. That would be really fun. And then a very tough matchup between Emma Raducanu from Great Britain and Jennifer Brady. Raducanu made a name for herself at Wimbledon, but she's been one of the rising stars for Great Britain for such a long time now. And now that she's getting the chance to play in the US Open main draw, her first US Open main draw, I believe, on the top level, she's been an unbelievable talent to watch this entire year. And Jennifer Brady, the 13th seed, we all know about her. She did really well last year. She's doing pretty well this year as well. So in this part of the draw, I honestly think that it could be a Brady versus Barty quarter, but with Muchova in the mix as well as Tauson. I would like to see Tauson play Barty because I think that's going to be a very contrast of matches. Tauson just hits the ball and strikes it so cleanly and so powerfully. It's amazing, and I want to see Barty use her skills and her Batman tool belt to kind of push through that. So that I'm excited for that one, as well as that Raducanu-Brady match, because I think if Raducanu gets through Brady, she has a clear shot of playing Muchova in the 3rd round. So I'm excited to see that, what happens there. Then we have gold medalist Belinda Bencic. Saw her in person for the first time in my life at the Yonex VCore Pro event that we were at last week. I can't wait to bring you guys that footage, but I have to make sure it's okay to release it with Yonex. But she's the 11th seed. She's a top player this year. She won gold at the Olympics. She's going to play a tricky lefty in Rus, who's made a name for herself as being a very tough opponent to play, and especially in the 1st round is going to be quite interesting to watch. Martina Trevisan versus Coco Vandeweghe. Why is Coco Vandeweghe getting a wild card after that performance that we saw? I mean, we saw her give that explanation on Instagram and on Twitter of why she did what she did on court, but honestly, after seeing that, I'd rather her maybe not get the wild card, just because it's kind of annoying to see her get a wild card after that performance. So no one should ever go through that. So I'm just kind of upset that they would still give her a wild card. But her coach is a great guy. She's a great person. I don't think she meant to do that, but in this situation, in this circumstance, I don't think she deserved the wild card. Then you have Misaki Doi versus Storm Sanders, Potapova versus Pegula. That's a good 1st round matchup as well. Potapova versus Pegula is going to be really fun to watch. believe Potapova pulled out in her first round of Toronto due to, I think it was heat stroke or injury, but if she's on all cylinders firing, she's going to give Pegula a good run for her money. Then we have Kontaveit versus Stosur. Stosur just won her doubles title in Toronto, and she's playing Cleveland, the tennis in the land champion, Annette Kontaveit. She has a tough draw in terms of the next round because you have Stosur, Teichmann, and then Swiatek. Honestly, actually, I take that back. Kontaveit is the clear favorite in this part of the draw, and then she'll probably play Bencic in that 4th round match. And then you have Iga Swiatek that could meet her in the 3rd round. But the way Kontaveit is playing, I honestly could say that she can make the 4th round. Somewhere that she's been to before, and she's very experienced in that sense. So it's going to be interesting to see her play Swiatek in that 3rd round match. And I think whoever wins that is going to play Barty. Karolina Pliskova versus Katie McNally. That's going to be a tough one for her to play against. Katie McNally, a very strong player from the U.S. I think Pliskova has it, but still I would like to see McNally give her a good fight. Her brother John just recently joined the Pro Tour as well after playing at Ohio State. Then you have Zarina Diaz, someone we've hit with. She's a very baseline-oriented player, and Anisimova is the cleanest ball striker I've ever seen, at least on the women's tour, maybe overall as well. But Anisimova versus Diaz, I think Anisimova is going to play Pliskova, and I think Anisimova is going to give her a good run for her money. Tomljanovic versus someone we've interviewed, Katie Volinets, and it's going to be a fun matchup to see her play her first main draw match at the U.S. Open stage. Actually, no, it's not going to be her first round. She played Andreescu 2 years ago, I believe in 2019, so she's going to get a little bit of an easier, I wouldn't say easier, but a tougher opponent in Ayla Tomljanovic. Then you have Dalma Golfi, our friend of the show. Golfi is going to play Petra Martic in that 1st round matchup. Paula Badoza versus Van Unchuk, and then Gracheva versus Perez Diaz, and then Schmidlidova versus Kruger. Ashley Kruger, I've never heard of her. That's going to be fun. Then Pavlyuchenkova versus Alison Risk. Alison Risk hasn't made that name that we once saw her in 2019 with that same kind of mentality and fighting spirit. So it would be good to see her get a good win against Pavlyuchenkova if she could. She's in the U.S. There's going to be a crowd. So hopefully she gets through that. Then you have Kvitova versus Hercog. That's going to be actually a tough round matchup for Kvitova, in my opinion. Kovanic versus Kristina Pliskova, Carolina's sister. Then you have Marta Kostyuk versus Maria Sakkari. That's actually a good 1st round matchup to watch. I actually think that might be an upset in the making because Kostyuk is a very talented up and rising Ukrainian. I've been talking about her for a lot. If we could interview her, that would be amazing to get to know her, but she's been very present on social media, her training videos, everything like that. Even her game has been very good as well to watch. Then you have Yelena Ostapenko versus Podorodzka, Samsonova versus Bolter, another qualifier, really fun to watch her play. Lauren Davis, an American, playing Tomova, and then Golubic versus Andreescu. Andreescu is back. I have to say, Andreescu is back. So, rounding off this top half, it's kind of, I don't know how you would call this in terms of who's going to win it. Because in this top half of the draw, I honestly think, do I think Andreescu can get this far? Maybe. Sakkari would be a good shout to make it to the quarterfinals there. She might beat Kvitova, but Kvitova is so good at that 1-2 serve and hit, serve and winner type of mentality, so that's going to be tough to beat. Then Pliskova has Pavlyuchenkova in her draw, Paula Badoza. I don't think Pliskova's getting out of the 4th round, to be honest. I think Pavlyuchenkova or Badoza could take her. Even Martic as well if she gets there, but we're rooting for Dalma Golfi in this one, friend of the show, so we have to root for her. So then in that top half as well, it's really hard not to root for Barty in this sense because I think Barty, the toughest player she would play is Swiatek in the semifinals, and then toughest one in her top half of the draw is probably Muhova, then Brady, then Kudermetova. And Barty's 43-7 this year. 43-7. If she wins this tournament, she'll be 50-7. We haven't seen one of those. We haven't seen one of those seasons in a really long time since Serena was dominant. In terms of that bottom half of the draw, if we take a closer look at it, and that bottom half of the draw, we have Svitolina, who just won Chicago for her 16th title, playing Rebecca Marino, qualifier from Canada. Manarino was retired and decided to come back and play and actually found her passion again. And it's really nice to see that because she is not on the young side, but she is the experienced one. But to see her, I think anyone who is interested in Canadian sports, Canadian tennis, even tennis in general, definitely check out her story. Then you have Marcirova versus Bogdan, Vondrasova versus Rus, Purankova versus Kazakina. Purankova, one of the stories of last year's tournament, making to the fourth round as a new mother, and playing Kazakina, who had a really good run in Cleveland, but just came up short. Then you have Rybakina, one of the favorites, I think in my mind, versus Sasnovich. Sasnovich had a good run in Cleveland as well, kind of warming up to that. Garcia versus Dart. The British women's tennis is really good. Behind Johanna Konta, there's a lot of good players like Dart, like Bolter, like Raducanu, playing really well. So her versus someone like Garcia, she definitely has a chance to win her first round matchup at this year's U.S. Open. Then you have Camila Giorgi versus Simona Halep. That's going to be fun to watch. Giorgi just claimed her biggest title of her career in Toronto. She's playing Simona Halep in the first round. I really don't know what to expect from that. Honestly, if Giorgi plays the same way that she did in Toronto, I don't think it's a question that she'll get by her first 2 rounds and then probably play Rybakina in that third. Rybakina has actually a really good shot of making to the fourth round or possibly semis of this bottom half of the draw. Then you have Kerber versus Yastremska. Good first round matches. Sharif, who got a lucky loser actually, and she's actually a really fun one to watch, from Ija versus Kalina Na. And then Madison Keys versus Stevens. I like how this is a first round matchup when this was what was this? Was this a final or a semifinal? I think it was a final at the US Open a while ago. But that's just amazing how they're playing in the first round. Then you have Magda Linette, who had a good run in Cleveland as well, versus Coco Gauff. Coco Gauff is actually the 21 seed as a 17-year-old. That's going to be fun. She'll play the winner of Keys and Stevens. Great. That's awesome. Go America. Putintseva versus Kanepi. Kanepi, always a big first-round fighter to beat a seed in Grand Slam, so that's going to be interesting to see her play against Putintseva. Leila Fernandez, another Canadian, versus Konju from Croatia. Alicia Parks, an American wild card. She's very fun to watch. Definitely an up-and-coming talent. Versus Olga Donilovic from Serbia. Buskova versus Osaka. In that corner, you have Kerber, Gauff, Putintseva, and Osaka. Do we want to say Osaka's going to win that part of the draw? Maybe? She just posted something, an update on her life, on how she's doing, and I think she's doing the right steps to kind of get her mental health back together, especially as the defending champion. So we'll see if she can hold that. She plays a tricky player like Buskova in the first round matchup, but I would like to see her succeed again. She would play Coco Gauff in the fourth round. The toughest player she would play would probably be Putintseva in that third round match. Yeah, but who knows at this point. Then, rounding off the bottom half of the draw, we got Barbara Krejcova, our French Open champion this year, versus Astra Sharma. Sharma, lovely person to watch play and lovely person to talk to as well. Emma Navarro, wild card from the University of Virginia. Your NCAA singles championship winner, Emma Navarro, playing Christina McCahill. Then you have Johanna Konta versus Kristina Landanovic. Sarah Rani versus Alexandrova. Azarenka versus Martinkova. Jasmine Paolini versus Fedova. Petkovic versus Begu. Begu had a really good run in Cleveland as well, and she was in the finals, and she lost to Kontaveit in 2 tough sets. But I actually could see her beating Petkovic in that first round, playing the winner of Donna Vekic and Garbine Muguruza. Let's just put all the people we like on this channel against each other. Vekic we saw at the Yonex event. That was a lot of fun. To meet her in person, never thought I would do that, but it was really nice for her to stop by. Versus Muguruza, that's a first round matchup you can't miss as well. Upset alert? Possibly. Mertens versus Peterson. Valentina Grammatikapoulou. She's a friend of the show as well. We have hit with her. We have interviewed her. We've done an Instagram Live with her. She's going to be playing against Blinkova. Jorovic versus Orsario Serrano. Nice young Colombian. Really good player. Elise Cornet versus Jabor. Very calm, cool, and collected versus very fiery French person. That's going to be a very fun match to watch. Daniel Collins versus Suarez Navarro. This is Suarez Navarro's last tournament of her career. Maybe she'll get at least stay one round. I don't know if she's playing doubles. I have to look at the draw, but she's had a great career, and maybe we'll make a video on her because she had a fun career and inspiring career, I would say, for the younger Spanish players like Sorribes Tormo, like Muguruza, like Paula Badoza. She had a really big impact on their lives. Then you have Heather Watson versus Katja Juvan, Bernarda Pera versus Zidancic. Zidancic had a great run at this year's French Open. And then Stojanovic versus Sabalenka. The bottom half of the draw, we have a lot of good players. I think I say that about every half of the draw, but for the women, for me, in the bottom half of this draw, Elise Mertens could face her doubles partner, Sabalenka, and I think Ons Jabeur could beat Mertens in that third round. This is a good opportunity for Jabeur to get farther in a Grand Slam. Sabalenka, really good at the smaller big tournaments like WTA 1000s, 500s, does really well there. But when it comes to a major, she broke through at Wimbledon, but you would think she would be favored at the US Open, right? And I think she is favored in my mind. I definitely could see her getting to the quarters and semis, semis, maybe even the finals. But if she was to make it to the finals, she would have to play against Osaka, Kerber, Svitolina, or Rybakina. And Kasatkina could beat Svitolina in my mind. Overall, I think this is going to be a battle between Barty and I'm not even going to say Osaka, to be honest. I think she'll make the semifinals, and I think that's a good goal for her to have, especially in the mental state that she has. It's going to be between Barty and I want to say Sabalenka, but I don't think that's going to be the right idea. I think it's going to be between Svitolina and Barty in the final. I think Svitolina is playing really well this year. She got married to Gaia Monfils, and I think that's been really helping her kind of make her more relaxed, I guess. But I think it's going to be between Svitolina and Ash Barty in that final. Biggest upset in the first round, maybe Donna Vekic versus Muguruza. But that's not really an upset because they just play really well. They are both great players. I would like to see our friend Golfi win. I would like to see Badoza get far. I think Badoza could make it to the fourth round. Then Utchuk, Richeva, and then Pavlyuchenkova in the third round. But I think she has definitely clear path, as well as Kontaveit playing Swiatek in that third round. I think that's going to be fun. Or Potapova versus Pegula. Those are the first round matchups that I'm looking out for. But let me know what you guys think. What are your predictions? My prediction is going to be Barty beating Svitolina in straight sets in the final. Let me know what your guys' thoughts are. Let's go over to the men's draw. Let's start off with Holger Rune playing Novak Djokovic in the first round. Let's just make that a first round matchup because we didn't want a young gun to actually make it far. We didn't want to see him succeed, right? We just wanted to throw him against the guy that is going for his 21st major title. That's annoying. But good luck to Holger. That's going to be the toughest match of your life. Talon Gritzper versus Struff. Struff is not playing a seed the first round, so he might go out in the first round. Caruso versus Nishikori. He's in that top half of Novak. McDonald versus Goffin. I actually think Mackenzie McDonald might beat Goffin in that first round. McDonald making his first ATP 500 level final and actually getting that far in an ATP Tour level event was huge for him, so I would like to see him continue his momentum. Definitely possible. Karatsev versus Munar. Thompson versus Majer. Brooksby versus Michele Ymer. That's a great first round matchup. Ymir just lost to Ivashka at the Winston-Salem Open and his first tour level final as well, and that's going to be one of the best ones to watch, I think, in my mind. When I go to the Open, I hope I'm there for that. Then you have Taylor Fritz versus De Minaur, another great first round matchup. That top court is jam-packed. We have to remember that this is where Karatsev made a name for himself early on this year when he went far at the US Open. So good to see Karatsev playing Munar and then playing the winner of Thompson and Majer. Could I see Brooksby going far? I can definitely see him going the third round, to be honest. Ymir, also another guy that could give De Minaur some tough times. Fritz, I don't know. He could actually have that upside as well. It's always up in the air. But if we move down to that second half of the top half of the draw, we have Hurkacz versus Gerasimov, Seppi versus Fucsovic, good first round matchup. Gir versus Kudla, Ote versus Sonego, Fonini versus Pospisil, fun matchup. Ivashka, your Winston-Salem champion versus Tennis Sangra, Mutet versus Tarvalia, Shardy versus Berrettini. Interesting, not much said. The person we like to talk about playing, Sam Querrey, it's like a battle of people that had problems this year and last year. Don't care who wins there. Ramos Vinolas versus Pui. Nishioka versus Jack Sock. Jack Sock actually has a decent chance of making it to the third round. Playing Nishioka in the first round, then playing Bublik or Hoffman. That would be interesting to see Sock make a resurgence in singles at this year's U.S. Open. He definitely has the willingness to go to that third round. Then you have Gael Monfils versus Coria, Johnson versus Materer. Monfils could make it to the third round as well. That would be fun to see him. Cecchinato versus Zachary Zvajda. Great player, played Kalamazoo. Really good junior, got a wild card. Really fun to see him play this. Wild card for Max Purcell. Had a really good year this year, I have to say, playing against and he's going to play against Yonex Center. Purcell got a wild card into this year's U.S. Open. I think well-deserved. That's probably one of the well-placed wild cards in my opinion. Then you got Pablo Carreno Busta versus Maxime Cressy, someone we also interviewed, friend of the show. Sebastian Korda versus Basilashvili, another person we don't like to talk about, but let's go Korda. We are hard rooting for you, sir. Then you have another good junior like Emilio Nava playing someone like Lorenzo Musetti. That's going to be a tough young battle right there. Suwoo Kwon versus Opelka. Opelka actually can make it to the third round, maybe even farther. Sinner's not on that half. So yeah, I could see Opelka going to that fourth round spot, especially with Carreno Busta being that guy that you don't think is going to win, but he will win. But I would like to see Opelka go to that fourth round. I think I definitely highly see him going to that fourth round spot. Khachanov versus Harris. Harris having a very good year as well. Beat Rafa at DC this year. That was fascinating to hear about. Pablo Cuevas versus Ernesto Escobedo, another wild card. Carbeas Baena versus Tommy Paul. Go Tommy Paul. The bonus versus Chapo. Chapo actually has a good chance of making it to the fourth round or better. Opelka playing Chapo in that fourth round spot would be really fun to watch. Chapo's still trying to find that breakthrough in majors. Did, I think, pretty well at Wimbledon, but I really want to see him do better. We reviewed his music. I wonder if he listens to his own music when he warms up, because is that like a self-help tape if you listen to your own music? I wonder if that is for Chapo. I would love to know. Bottom half of the men's draw. Rublev versus Karlovic. This is supposedly Karlovic's last tournament of his career. At 42 years old, the fact that he even qualified for this tournament is unreal. So you have to give it to the giant giraffe and the original giraffe of Karlovic, because that guy's a legend. I don't care what anyone says. He's playing against Rublev. That's going to be tough first round. Martinez versus Duckworth. Tiafoe versus Eubanks. Who put this matchup here? I want to know whose dumbass idea this was, because this is criminal. Why would you put two best friends against each other in the first round? That's stupid. Guido Pella versus Krajinovic. Batista Agut versus Nick Kyrgios. Upset first round, really? Possibly. I actually like Kyrgios playing Batista Agut. I think the crowd's going to be behind him a lot better than Batista Agut, even though Batista Agut is very tough on hard court, surprisingly. And I think he's better on hard court than he is clay. For a Spaniard, that's very weird. Or I wouldn't say weird, I would say out of the ordinary. Then you have Kamil Majdzak versus Emil Rusevori. Emil Rusevori, pretty good player from Finland. Good player to watch, and young gun definitely to look out for. Feliciano Lopez versus Zapata Miralles. Donsky versus Felix Auger-Aliassime. If Felix Auger-Aliassime doesn't make the third round, at least at this major, I'm going to be shocked. I'm honestly going to be shocked. If he doesn't, I'm going to be sad, honestly. Christian Garin versus Gumbos. Laxon versus Millman. Lajovic versus Pear. Gojovic versus Humbert. Nori versus Alcaraz. That is a first-round matchup that everyone has to watch. Nori's on fire this year, and Carlos Alcaraz is unreal to watch as like one of the best young talents we've seen in a very long time. Like him and everyone else, Alcaraz is the guy to watch right now for like young up-and-comers. Kecmanovic versus Rinderek. Rinderek having a very good year, former Aggie as well, college tennis. Herbert versus Manarino, and then Murray versus... I'm done. I'm done. This is stupid. This draw is stupid. This draw is so stupid. Why do people do this? Why are people like, oh yeah, let's sell first round tickets. Let's have Andy Murray lose in the first round. Because this is just, we don't want him around. Like, seriously, fuck. Murray's playing Tsitsipas in the first round. That's what you chose? I'm mad. Casper Ruud versus Tsonga. Vanden Janschlip versus Tiberner. Bagnes versus Taro Daniel. Trungelliti versus Davidovich Fokina. He dives on hard court. You have to give it to the Spaniard for actually trying to put his body on the line on hard court. Nakashima versus Isner. We are so rooting for Nakashima in that. 100%. No doubt in my mind. Alex Malkin versus Kim Ilkel. Vesely versus Kevin Anderson. Nice to see Kevin Anderson back. Berankis versus Schwartzman. It is the battle of stocky players. That is my favorite match. That right there is my favorite match to watch. I don't care what anyone says. Watch it. If you don't like Berankis, you don't like tennis. Same with Schwartzman. Sam Riffis, NCAA singles champion from the University of Florida, is playing Grigor Dimitrov. Will I be rooting for Sam Riffis? Yes. Do I think he has a chance of beating Dimitrov? Possibly. Will it happen? I don't know. Let's find out. Popyrin versus Albot, Giron versus Huang, Montanaro versus Evans, Cilic versus Kohlschreiber. That's a flashback from the past. These two in their prime was a fun match to watch, but I think it's still going to be a lot of fun to watch. Kohlschreiber's one-hander versus Cilic. Kohlschreiber, very classic one-handed backhand, in my opinion. A lot of fun to watch, and probably one of the guys that I watch the most for a one-handed backhand just to learn from. Then you have Kukushkin versus Andujar, Kupfer versus Hals, Gasquet versus Medvedev. Gasquet actually had a good Winston-Salem tournament, in my opinion. I can play Medvedev. I just think this bottom half of the draw is stupid because of those two matchups just because of this matchup right here, because of Murray and Tsitsipas. That's just dumb. I think that's stupid. Honestly, I could see Alcaraz getting to that third round to play Tsitsipas. I do not think Murray's going to win that match. I just think the U.S. Open screwed up there. I honestly do. Rublev would play Felix Auger-Aliassime in that fourth round match. I could see... Oh, yeah, and also Tiafoe versus Eubanks. Stupid. I could see Tiafoe getting to that third round. That would be a good stepping point for him. He just has to play big against these seeded players or these bigger name people like Krajinovic, who's a 32 seed. And then if he beats him, he would have to play Rublev. And I think Rublev would probably most likely play Tsitsipas in that quarterfinal round. It's hard to say, and it's really hard to say. Like, I think it's really hard to say that Novak is not the favorite here, because he is. He genuinely is. Let me pull up some numbers for you guys. According to DraftKings, and this is not a sponsor, but they have Djokovic in this order. We have Djokovic, Medvedev, Zverev, Tsitsipas, and Rublev. Those are the top 5 to win. Djokovic obviously being the number 1 favorite. And then coming in at the 6 and 7 spot, we have Berrettini and Sinner, then Shapo, then Hurkacz. Then it's a 3-way tie between Dimitrov, Musetti, and Isner. Who somehow sportsbooks know more than other people, and I don't know why, but having Isner, Dimitrov, and Musetti all in that same category, I think it's a joke. I don't agree with that at all. I don't agree with that whatsoever. I think that's it's gonna be a tough one to swallow if Novak wins again, and if he passes it. But you can't argue that he will be ultimately the numbers champion. And I say numbers because I think someone put it recently that Federer is the people's champion, and that what he did for tennis revolutionized the sport. Novak has the numbers to be the greatest player of all time, but the impact that Roger had and Rafa had on the sport, I think, is just a totally different level. And I say this in every video, but it's just another topic to discuss on a different day, because that's just a hard one to face in terms of like being the greatest of all time. First round matches to watch: Kyrgios versus Batista Agut, Dimitrov versus Riffis, Murray versus Tsitsipas, again, dumb first round matchup. Djokovic versus Rune, Brooksby versus Ymir, Dimitrov versus not Dimitrov, Demonauer versus Fritz. Yeah, I think there's better first round matchups in the bottom half of the draw than there is the top half in terms of names, and that I would watch personally. But yeah, I think it's gonna be Novak versus Medvedev in the final. I think Novak's gonna win. It's like that. It's that simple. It's really that simple for predicting the men's draw, in my opinion. I hope you guys did enjoy this. Let me know your guys' predictions down in the comments below. This was a bit of a lengthy video, but it was a big draw to go over, so I really appreciate your patience. If you have made it to the end of this video, make sure you are subscribed with notifications turned on, and make sure you hit that like button so that way more people can see our predictions and see your predictions too if you leave comments down below of what you guys thought. I hope to see you guys soon. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you guys do enjoy the rest of the US Open that's going on currently if you're watching this during the US Open. And I wanted to remind you guys, our Instagram got hacked. Make sure to follow the new one. Link to that is down in the description below. And I hope everyone's having a great day. Have a great rest of your week. Thank you guys so much for watching. Thanks, guys.